everyone. I would like to start by thanking all of you for coming out to support such a wonderful cause. My name, as she said, is Taylor, and my kidney journey started on June 10th of 2021. I went for my yearly checkup and had blood work done, and the blood work showed that I needed a transfusion right away. So my mom took me to the ER. When I was there, they did their own labs for the transfusion, and once they set up my transfusion, I was sitting there watching Harry Potter. If you know me, big fan. So it was letting the transfusion go by a little bit better. But while I was watching the movie, a doctor came running into my room and stopped like a deer with headlights when he saw me. He asked me a bunch of questions, and I asked him, "Do you think I'm confused? Because I'm not." So he told me that they were going to run the labs one more time, and when the results came back, they showed that I was in stage 5 kidney failure, and I was lucky to be alive at this point. I was then admitted to the hospital that night and started my new life, a life with kidney disease. I had an ultrasound of my kidneys done the next morning, along with many other tests. The results came back, and they were concerning. So they gave me a tunnel catheter that was placed in my neck in my room. This procedure was my least favorite procedure that I've ever had, and that's saying something. Once the catheter was placed, I was sent to dialysis. While on the machine, I started having chest pains, but I didn't know that was normal, considering this was my first time on dialysis. I only said something to the nurse when the person beside me said that they were having chest pains, and the nurses started to freak out a little bit. So once I told them, they called my team, and my entire team came into the dialysis room and started asking me questions. They said, "Why are you blinking like this?" Because I kept blinking rapidly. I said, "Oh, it's fine. It'll go away. It's happened before." When I told them this, they got an even more concerned look on their face, and they took me off the machine right away. They were worried that I could be having a heart attack, stroke, or both. Turns out I was not having any of these. My body was going into shock from having clean blood for the first time in such a long time. After this, I had a biopsy of my kidneys done, and it showed too much scarring and cysts. This meant whatever happened to my kidneys came in, destroyed them, or it happened when I was little. But we will never know the cause unless they did a biopsy of my entire kidney. After this hospital stay, I started to go into the clinic and adjust to my life on dialysis. I then made the decision to switch to peritoneal dialysis so I could go back to college and college majorettes at Clarion University. When I made the switch to PD, I was still receiving hemodialysis, but I still told my doctors I was going to band camp. They thought I was crazy. So I would get dialysis in the morning, and my mom would drive 2 hours to Clarion, where I could go to band camp that rest of the day, and then the next day, and drive home and do it all over again. Once classes started for my junior year at Clarion, I did them online or via Zoom when I was at hemo sessions, doctor's appointments, to and from appointments, and many other health-related things. When I was fully trained on PD, I started to go back and forth between home and Clarion so I could do classes, majorettes, and my health obligations all at once. I then started at the Starzl Transplant Institution for my evaluation. This day went wonderfully, and I later found out I was on the list. Things went good for a little bit, and I was told I needed a parathyroid surgery to move 3.5 of the 4 parathyroid glands. This was because the parathyroids took over the job of the kidneys of distributing calcium between my blood and bones. Since my kidneys have been failing for so long, my bones have been deprived of calcium for years. The surgery was much needed. After the surgery, my bones went into a prolonged duration of hungry bone syndrome. This normally lasts 1 to 2 weeks in a normal case, but with me, there's nothing regular or normal about my case. So my hungry bone syndrome lasted for 7 months. After many other hospital stays, appointments, finding ways to regulate school, and figuring out how to have a social life, I finally fell into the groove of things. And then I got a call from a UPMC number. I thought this call was going to tell me that I needed to go back to the hospital, but instead they told me I found a donor. My transplant then had been set for a date, and it felt unreal. The day had finally come, and I got to go in for my surgery, and I honestly was very calm. I was this way because I felt safe with my transplant team and knew they would have my back along with my wonderful support system. My transplant surgery went wonderfully, as well as the healing stages, until 3 months after my surgery, I got very sick and hospitalized. They found out that I was in post-transplant lymphoproliferative disorders, or PTLD as short. This was because my donor had antibodies to the EBV virus and I did not. Again, I'm in the rare society who has never had EBV. So my transplant medicines lower my immune system enough to let the EBV virus flare up inside and turn into PTLD. I then started 4 rounds of IV chemo weekly. After this, I had a PET scan, which came back clear, but the PTLD likes to hide in your spinal fluid by your brain. So I had 4 more rounds of spinal taps with chemo injections in the morning, and then I would have IV chemo in the afternoon. I then had another PET scan, bone biopsy, endoscopy, and modified colonoscopy to prove that I was finally in remission. All of this and some more happened within the span of 2 years. It was the craziest 2 years I've ever had. I had to adjust to life with kidney disease, continuing to go to college, keeping up with majorettes, graduating from college with high honors, and getting into grad school. None of this would have been possible without all my doctors that I've had along my journey. Especially, I would not be here today if it wasn't for the admitting doctor that night when I went for my transfusion. I also urge all of you to please consider signing up to become a living donor, because if it wasn't for my wonderful donor, Shelly, I wouldn't have the opportunity of a second life. I also urge all of you to move on today and to educate and advocate about kidney patients like myself to get the word out about kidney disease and donation to help others. Lastly, I would like to thank my family, support system, and the doctors for all being there for me and loving me and supporting me and keeping me going every single day. Special thank you to every single person who is here today, because if it wasn't for you raising funds and awareness for kidney disease, I don't know where I would be. So thank you all so much.